Okay, great. All right, so we are the team Reforestation. So this project was, um, we looked at kind of a big set of data by the Nature Conservancy, and it was really to look at that data, see what other data you can sort of combine with it, and try to identify what the most promising regions are in the US, specifically around reforestation. So we'll do a quick overview of the projects. We'll look at some of the things that we researched and then go through analysis findings. And then if we had more time, kind of what we think we could do or would want to do next. So the project at a high level was the Nature Conservancy released a study and a data set along with it that looked at, how much carbon capture reforestation projects could, actually kind of realize and what that impact would be. And so using that data, where on earth could we put these trees if we wanted to do that? So at a high level, the goals were to kind of look at the data, kind of at the MSA level and county level, and then understand the benefits of planting trees beyond just carbon removal. What we noticed that, as you start to look at the trees, they looked at all the data kind of by different tree or forest types. Um, it's a significant impact in carbon capture, but it's not going to be like the silver bullet that I think a lot of people maybe thought it was going to be. And so there are a ton of benefits that having forests and trees planted along with carbon capture. And so that was one of the things that we wanted to kind of look at and how we started thinking about the project. We looked at a variety of different data sources, both from kind of the Nature Conservancy. We also looked at GIS data, and then we added in some information on cost and benefits. So to get kind of an economic value to see kind of what's the economic benefit of having trees planted by the different types of forests and by different geographies. So one of the things that we did once we added in all the kind of economic data, so looking at cost and kind of economic value and then getting to kind of a net benefit, was to see, is there a correlation? And there is. So if you look at the bottom graph here, you can see these are all the counties. The data was at the county level, and then we added in the MSA or the kind of like urban city level on top of it. So you can see that they are correlated, and then the graph on the right kind of just breaks out. You can see what some of those counties actually are in terms of opportunities, both related to carbon capture and economic benefit. So then what we did was, once we sort of agreed that that was a valuable way to look at it, we took the data and kind of started to drill into it to see how could we actually use this to make some decisions. So we said, okay, well, what's sort of the best region from an economic perspective? So you can see here the total net benefit, and this added in, we had, there's costs and benefits, the economic benefit by types of trees, type of forest, over each county. So we kind of overlaid that data on the entire data set and then kind of aggregated it up into regions and cities. So if you look at, say, okay, the southern region of the United States is probably a good place to start. And then you can start to drill in by MSA and look at what are the cities that maybe might be valuable to start to drill into. We looked at, here's kind of the top 5. Atlanta was one that we thought could be interesting. So we looked at that one specifically. And over here on the right-hand side, you can see the top counties in Atlanta. I guess for folks on the call that maybe don't know as much about reforestation, when we say kind of co-benefits, it's the benefits outside of just carbon reduction. And so that can be realized. They're usually higher in cities because it leads to things like energy savings, improved air quality, stormwater runoff, or aesthetics if you think about adding value to like a neighborhood or something like that. Once you sort of have like the list of counties, then you can drill in even deeper. And this is some of the GIS data that the team overlaid on top of it to see on the left-hand side here, you can see this is Carrollton County, which was the top county in Atlanta by, net benefit and carbon removal both. And it kind of shows you, the graph on the left shows you land use, and the graph on the right shows you kind of the carbon benefit. And if you look down here, you can see there's sort of an overlap in both at this sort of area. So that might start to think, as you start to think about, okay, now we sort of know this might be a good county for a reforestation project, but like, where do you actually go do it? And what exactly does that mean when you finally choose an area to do a project? And then the team drilled in one more time, and you can actually see the data on the Nature Conservancy side on the left and Google Maps on the right. You can actually see, it's pretty bare where where the opportunity is. And so just kind of a confirmation that that probably would be a good plot of land to do a planting project. So that was sort of as far as we got over the course of the 3 weeks. I think some key takeaways. One, we sort of mentioned up front, reforestation we think is a really important thing. We think it's not going to be the sole solution, obviously, to managing climate change, but we think it's critical and can add additional benefits outside of just carbon reduction. I think one of the other things is estimating the actual impact can be difficult due to, uncertainty of environmental factors. So because trees take a long time to grow and forests take a long time to develop, and there's a lot of, there could be fires or other things that might take trees down, understanding what the real impact could be over time can be difficult. Identifying the high potential opportunities varies greatly based on the actual county level. So we made some assumptions and applied the cost benefit data across the board to different types of forests, but the same across all the different counties. So if we had more time, we would, actually go in and look at specific costs based on the actual kind of county or even state that we were in. And then the last thing, obviously we got down to sort of the plot area in terms of identifying locations, but actually implementing a tree planting or forest management type of project requires, additional work once you've identified those areas. So, in terms of applications, there's a couple chats here. Wanted to make sure I wasn't running out of time. So if you look at the, potential applications, if a city or a state was trying to figure out, where do we allocate resources, how do we start to think about prioritizing plots of land? How do we think about spending our money that's by the state or the township most effectively or efficiently? This is kind of one way to start to think about doing that. And then I guess the last part, if we had more time, as I mentioned, we would augment the data set with more localized cost and benefit data. We'd then kind of do more research around, how to make more localized recommendations based on tree type or the various land types. And then I think the last thing is actually engaging with some organizations. We've identified some organizations over the course of the project, but didn't have a lot of success in actually getting to be able to speak with a lot of people. So actually having those conversations to understand, how would you actually implement, some of these projects? Because I think there's a lot of things you could do by city. You could have companies like sponsor a forest or, lots of different things. So that was our project.